Hey everyone, my name is Chris Lambert, and on this channel we talk about Kanye West. So let's start doing that, and we're starting here with this story, which is kind of a sad tale: the short life and death of Kanye West's utopian dome house idea. It's kind of a mouthful of words, but you may remember that in 2019 Kanye was tweeting out a lot about architecture, and if you know your Kanye history, architecture has actually been kind of a big deal for him for a while. He's kind of befriended a lot of architects over time. He's drawn a lot of inspiration from architecture. I did an interview with Joe Perez a couple years ago now, who worked at Donda and actually curated Kanye's blogs back in the day, which is kind of a blast from the past. Some of you may remember that, some of you may not. What's sad is you can't really find the blogs anywhere, but they were kind of these tastemaker blogs, and it was Joe and Kanye kind of going through all kinds of books and trying to find the things that they really liked. And architecture was such a big thing for them. And it was part of the design of the Cruel Summer album cover, the Watch the Throne album cover. There's just this texture that's part of it. Kanye has always been into design, not just fashion, but into the world as a whole. So this project, I think, means more to him than what maybe many people thought that it might. I'm guessing, at least. Like, in the same way that people were initially maybe a bit taken aback by how interested he was or passionate he was in shoes or clothing, only to find out that, yeah, he's really fucking passionate about those things. I think you'd find the same thing with architecture. So Yeezy Home, as it was dubbed, was going to be kind of, I think, a big deal. And it actually got shut down because Kanye didn't have the proper permits and had people working on it all hours. Like, we're talking after midnight into the morning, which is kind of ridiculous. But it's also like out in the hills. So you would hope, like, you can see how out there it is, that it might not be making any noise where neighbors are, but alas. What's kind of funny, my editor at Forbes, Zach Greenberg, wrote the cover story about Kanye and the value of Yeezy and how, I guess, valuable Yeezy is at this point, the shoes. And Kanye actually at one point took him out to look at the domes, and it was like 1 a.m. that they went out there. So it really does seem to be like, there goes my cat. It does seem to be kind of this like late night project for Kanye. I mean, he's not out there hammering, but he has people out there hammering. So this got shut down, and it's another one in a long line of Kanye maybe not crossing his T's and dotting his I's on some of these things. In 2018, you may remember that there were songs from the Wyoming projects that didn't get sample clearances that Kanye tried to release, or the albums were delayed because they were trying to get sample clearance at the last minute from these people. And they had some success and some not success, which you had Teyana Taylor being a victim of that. And then there have also been some fashion deals where they had a handshake agreement, or Yeezy had confirmed, like, yeah, send us this, we'll do that, and then backed out of the deal, but there had never been anything signed. So kind of, I don't know how much that happens everywhere with everything, but it seems to at least be a pattern for Kanye in how he kind of goes about these things. But I think you can imagine he has so much exuberance for going about it and just wants to take action, get things done, that going through all the bureaucracy may bore him at times. But hopefully there can be somebody that doesn't bore and we stop having issues like this where projects are getting shut down or samples are being removed from songs, like in I Thought About Killing You, just because there wasn't somebody to kind of do that work ahead of time. So then we also have this by Gil Kaufman. It's a 2009 VMA's Oral History: What You Didn't See When Kanye West Rushed the Stage on Taylor Swift. That language, rush the stage on Taylor Swift, just a little aggressive. It's amazing that 10 years on, this continues to be such, like, the legend only grows, and that it's only now 10 years on that we're really getting, like, Billboard talking to all these people and finding out more about it. I haven't read through all of this yet. Like, there's a lot of people, and it's pretty long, but it's kind of cool to see just still how interested people are in this moment and how much it still kind of defines like pop music zeitgeist or how we look at music, and almost seems like an indicator of 2019 culture way before. Like, I think if Kanye did this in 2019, like it had never happened, Kanye was just fine, and then suddenly did this, people would just be like, yeah, that's fine. But in 2009, the world was still such an innocent and sweet place. No longer. No longer. A little bit of a personal pet peeve here, if you don't mind me venting. You can see that in the wake of this oral history, like Complex covered it and wrote about it and was just like, oh, new details emerge. I wrote this long ass shit just a couple weeks back about what happened to Brothers, the Kanye West song that vanished. And this took some time. I spoke to people. It's a mix of oral history. It's a mix of like reporting. 8,000 words is gigantic. And nothing. Nobody writes any ancillary pieces about my reporting. The lesson here, you need to know people and you need to have connections. Even with me writing at Forbes at this point, it still doesn't get me attention from necessarily Complex or somewhere else when I drop an article. So connections still continue to be one of the most important things you can have and need to have. So anyway, life lessons from Chris. Moving on. We also have this cool interview from DJ Booth. It seems to be an oral history themed YouTube video. So you have the VMAs, you have my brother's piece, and then you have this DJ Booth interviewed Andrew Dawson. And they make a very good point right up front that kind of cuts through and really describes like how important Andrew is to Kanye. There are only 3 people with a credit on every single Kanye West album: Kanye, Mike Dean, and Andrew Dawson, which it's actually kind of funny. I saw his picture, and I don't know if any of you were creeping on Mike Dean's Periscope back before The Life of Pablo came out, like in that whirlwind between Yeezy Season 3 and Life of Pablo coming out, where we had a few days and the album was supposed to drop, but it hadn't, and they were still working on it. Mike Dean was getting on Periscope and showing them in the studio, but nothing happening. They're just kind of sitting around bullshitting. He'd go to his computer at one point and everybody's getting hyped, and then he'd kind of walk away laughing. Like, Dean's an epic troll. I've never forgiven him for this. I mean, I have. He's awesome. But still, part of me is just like, you son of a bitch. Because it was days of this. But I'm pretty sure Andrew was there, and people were making fun of him. And they were just cracking up at people just being like, who's that guy? Who's that guy? But he's worked on every Kanye album. So this is essentially just him responding to topics. So on Mixing Destiny's Child, on Jesus Walks and Meeting Kanye, on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and 808s and Heartbreak. So there's a lot to take away here from Andrew if you're just kind of this Kanye fan that really wants all this information on the process that Kanye has. And what goes on behind the scenes. This is for you. And then lastly, similarly too, in that vein, we have Justin Vernon, aka Bon Iver, doing an interview with Zane Lowe. And in it, he talks about collaborating with Kanye and what goes on behind the scenes, and talks more about the collaboration aspects of it. And one of the great pieces that he talks about is how Kanye kind of has music cooking because he has people in different rooms in places, which he's kind of historically known for. He'll rent out like the floor of a hotel, right? And each room in the hotel is where people are working on a specific song. And that's kind of how he organizes things. So he might walk into room 23B, room 231, and that's where they're working on Otis. And then he walks into room 232, and that's where they're working on That's My Bitch. And he just hops room to room, and he knows everything that's in that room is for that specific song, which is kind of like, awesome. I don't know if it's always like that. Like if when they were in Hawaii for 808s, was it like that? Or My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, was it like that? But definitely for Watch the Throne and maybe Yeezus from what I remember. But and Wyoming, it seems that that's the case too. So you can hear Vernon talk a couple times about Kanye. And of course, Team Kanye Daily has those queued up for anybody that just wants to cut right to the Kanye portion. But if you're a Kanye fan, you're probably interested, maybe in some capacity, in Justin Vernon. So just listening to the interviews, a cool thing to do. And that's all we got for our, what do you call it, podcast. I actually had an interview with Mr. Hudson last week, who you might remember as being so instrumental to the sound of 808s and Heartbreak. I got to talk with him for about an hour, just about his career, about working with Kanye, and what he kind of learned from working with Kanye. So that comes out in a couple days, or I guess tomorrow if this is Thursday. And there's also going to be an article about him on Forbes that I'm writing. So you can read that there if you're interested in that at all. And then I'll be back with another video talking about more Kanye West news. And if you have any requests, let me know, and we'll talk soon. In the meantime, stay wavy, keep it loopy, and cheers.